Indonesia is endowed with the third largest area of tropical rainforest, covering 60% of the country's landmass. For the past 5 decades, forests and forestry have played a significant role in the economic development of the country. In 2015, the value of total timber products exported worldwide was $9.8 billion, 9% of which, or equal to $882 million, was shipped to the European Union market, up from $593 million in 2013 and $645 million in 2014. Rampant illegal logging has significantly reduced Indonesia's forest cover area and cost the country with substantial financial losses from uncollected fees and underestimated royalties. Indonesia is committed to reducing deforestation and forest degradation by strengthening law enforcement against illegal logging and improving forest governance. Timber harvesting from state forests is only permitted in production forests under business licenses issued to individuals, cooperatives, private enterprises, and state-owned enterprises. Indonesia strictly prohibits the utilization of timber from conservation and protected forests. As a result of these law enforcement actions, illegal logging has significantly declined since its peak in 2000. To complement the law enforcement efforts, Indonesia has developed a national timber legality assurance system called SvLK, or Sistem Verifikasi Legalitas Kayu. The SvLK provides incentives for legality by promoting market access for verified legal products and blocking market access for illegal products. The SvLK also promotes broader governance reforms such as improved information, transparency, capacity, and community rights. Indonesia developed SvLK through a multi-stakeholder consultative process involving stakeholders in government, the private sector, and civil society since 2001. To promote better market access for certified timber, Indonesia has entered bilateral negotiations to promote trade in legal timber products with several trading partners. In 2013, Indonesia signed the Forest Law Enforcement, Governance and Trade Voluntary Partnership Agreement, or FLEGT VPA, with the EU, making it the first country in Asia to negotiate and ratify a FLEGT VPA with the European Union. This agreement was ratified through a presidential decree in 2014 that states Indonesia's commitment to only trade in legal timber to all markets. The ultimate goal of the Indonesia-EU VPA process is to ensure that all timber products imported into the EU from Indonesia have been legally produced. Indonesian timber is deemed legal when its origin, production, processing, transport, and trade are verified as meeting all applicable Indonesian laws and regulations included in the VPA legality definition. To ensure legality and sustainability of Indonesia's timber and timber products, Indonesia has developed 5 legality standards articulated in a set of principles, criteria, indicators, and verifiers, all based on Indonesian laws, regulations, and procedures. Legality Standard 1. For concessions within production forest zones on state-owned or company-managed lands, natural production forests, industrial plantation forests, forest ecosystem restoration, forest management rights. Legality Standard 2. For community plantation forests and community forests within production forest zones on state-owned lands. Legality Standard 3. For privately owned or used forests and land. Legality Standard 4. For timber use right within non-forest zones on state-owned lands or from converted production forests. Legality Standard 5. for primary and downstream forest-based industries and traders. Legality standards for all management units include permits and licenses confirming concession holders or for private forest owners' rights to the forest areas. For forest concessions, the standards also include aspects of production covering transportation of timber, ecology, and all social aspects, which include adherence to the Free Prior Informed Consent, or FPIC principle. The production aspects include evidence on legality of the supply chain, including transport of products. Finally, all downstream industries must adhere to the labor laws and regulations. SvLK also requires strong supply chain control through well-documented transport of raw material and products at every node of the supply chain. Once a forest or business unit complies with applicable criteria, standards, and indicators, a third-party independent auditor known as the Conformity Assessment Body, or CAB, issues a sustainability or legality certificate for the said forest or business unit. The CABs, who have been also accredited as licensing authorities, issue V-legal documents to accompany exports of verified legal wood. The Ministry of Environment and Forestry uses various online databases to track the supply chain, including a database which tracks timber and documents it from forest operations to industry, a database of timber industries which records the origin of raw timber as input materials for the industry, an online information system on natural forest production, an online system on chain of custody, and finally, a database of information in timber exports with V-legal certificates. Currently, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry is developing an integrated online system combining the above online systems to describe data on the entire chain of custody. The key stakeholders in the SvLK scheme are the government as the regulator to set standards, enforce regulations, and take actions against violators. The National Accreditation Committee, which accredits independent auditors, called the Conformity Assessment Bodies, or CABs, and who receive complaints or reports of violations by CABs from independent monitors. The conformity assessment bodies verify compliance with the legality definition and assess the sustainability of permit holders, owners, and management against SvLK. The independent monitors are non-governmental organizations with recognized legal status and communities living in close proximity to management units. They monitor compliance of operations with the requirements of the legality definition, conformity of the assessment bodies and their verification process, periodic evaluation and licensing processes, and finally, file complaints to conformity assessment bodies, licensing authorities, the National Accreditation Committee, and the Ministry of Environment and Forestry upon finding irregularities or violations. In performing their work, the independent monitors have the right to full access to data and information on parties involved in the certification process, as well as access to locations relevant to the monitoring process. Their security during monitoring is also guaranteed by the government. Finally, they are protected from civil lawsuits related to their monitoring reports. In addition to the independent monitors, the VPA mandates an annual periodic evaluation by an independent third party to provide assurance that the system functions as described in the VPA. Indonesia has set up an online database called SvLK, which serves as a registry of V-legal documents. SvLK links automatically with information systems in the Indonesian Ministry of Trade and the Customs Office of the Ministry of Finance. Competent authorities in target export markets can query SvLK to verify V-legal documents and seek clarification if necessary. By December 2015, SvLK has certified around 13.3 million hectares of forest concessions and private forests and more than 1,900 timber industries. 80% of the timber harvested in natural forest concessions, as well as 100% of timber coming from plantation forest concessions, was SvLK certified. Indonesia exported SvLK licensed timber products to 193 countries, including 28 countries in the EU. Licensed timber products traveled from 86 ports in Indonesia to 2,084 ports overseas. The system and subsystem is maintained and improved from time to time to ensure the credibility of the SvLK. On 21st of April 2016, Indonesia's President Joko Widodo and the EU President Jean-Claude Juncker issued a joint statement agreeing to move swiftly towards the start of the first-ever FLEGT licensing scheme on legally produced tropical timber from Indonesia. This statement starts the beginning of the process for Indonesia as the first country in the world to receive the FLEGT license for timber exports to the EU.
I believe that we, timber producers as well as consumer countries, are all concerned to stopping the trade in illegal timber trade. Indonesia has been able to develop and implement a robust system to provide the evidence over the legality of our timber product through SvLK. It is the time for regulated timber market to accept legally verified timber from Indonesia, and especially for the European Union to make FLEGT licensed timber from Indonesia goes alive.